on, Locked On Phoenix Suns. They're doing what we've been begging them to do, exploring the center trade market. Jusuf Nurkic banished, names popping up. What does it mean for the Jimmy Butler saga? All of it next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to kick off your Tuesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. I should have said a game day Tuesday. How could I forget? Joining me, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this Tuesday, Ben Garcia?
So good. We're going streaking, Brendon. That game today is at 5:30, an away game against the Hawks. That feels a little dicey. That feels almost prime for a loss, dare I say. But
hey, they beat the Hawks last week.
Yeah, that was at home. But also, just because I wasn't on last night, I did think last night was a good win.
Oh, yeah.
Comeback win last night. They haven't had one of those in 2 months.
Every win's a good win right now.
I just saw a little bit of, it didn't look how we wanted it to look, but I think you just need to drop your expectations. So that was overall, I thought it was a good win. Suns are heading in the right direction because the direction before they were in was abyss.
Yeah, it is. We're looking at a complete playoff dogfight right now. So I would like to see sexy wins. I would like to see blowout wins. I will take a 1-point win against the worst team in the NBA right now. But in that effort to make the playoffs, I think we are ready to talk about the trade rumors, the trade reports, the trade noise that is circling this Suns team. Starting with a name that we are all familiar with, Ben, which is Nick Richards, a face that we also saw. I made a joke to Shane Young, who we both know from Forbes, at the arena last night as we were wandering over from the Bud press conference to the Charles Lee press conference for the Hornets. And Nick Richards was in the hallway, and he poked his head into the wrong room. I don't know what he thought he was looking for, but it was like where the drum line was warming up. And he is like, oh crap. And I joked to Shane, I'm like, he's just checking out the arena so he knows what things look like by the time he gets here next week and starts playing for the Suns. He just wants to get his bearings. So that rumor is not going anywhere. John Gambadoro, as well as I believe Mark Stein, have circled Nick Richards that is actually real. It's not just a dream that Suns fans are having, that he's a player who makes sense. He is now somebody we can officially say that the Suns are pursuing. Ben, what are your thoughts on that now that we've seen him a couple times this week and we kind of know his game a little better? Is that exciting to you? Is that scary to you? Does that solve the problem? Where are you on Nick Richards?
It's exciting depending what he costs. If you have to give up a valuable asset or deplete your resources that you would other which be using for a guy like Jimmy Butler. At first, last week, you saw him play the Suns, and he was really, really dominant. He just made Jusuf Nurkic look awful and eventually sent Jusuf Nurkic to Alcatraz. So he hasn't been back in the lineup since that game. Nick Richards, he would clearly be the best center that this Suns team has, but that is not a high bar.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like expectations are a little high for Nick Richards. I don't know if
it's desperation, right? It's
yeah.
It's the same reason we're all so hyped about like Oso, for instance, who's still up and down and he's a rookie and he's undersized, but it's like there's just this level of like, give us something, please, that I think is going to be with Nick Richards. But I don't disagree. I mean, he's a backup on an 8-28 team, right? So I think you have to be realistic about what exactly it is that you're thinking this guy can do. Obviously, he's bigger than than Oso is. He's more athletic than a Jusuf Nurkic. He's more, I think, kind of strong and physical than Oso, and he is a lob threat, which no one really is on this team consistently. So there's a lot to like, but yeah, I mean, he's making $5 million and he is a backup on a lottery team. So that's what you're kind of counting on. That's only going to take you so far. But the price thing is I think the other place to go. We're going to talk about how this affects Jimmy Butler. We're going to kind of zoom out and talk about where the Suns are kind of sitting right now with other pathways for Jimmy and other multi-team things and how to get more assets. We'll get through all that as the show continues. But just looking at these centers, the most, I think, intriguing deal that Suns fans have been starting to get hyped about here, Ben, is the idea of getting off of Jusuf Nurkic and getting Nick Richards in one deal. And I will admit to you that I will believe that when I see it. I think that we talked about it last week. Like, you have to treat Nurkic's contract as a tax. Like, you're giving another team something to make them take Nurkic, and then you're giving up more to go get whatever else you want, whether that be Nick Richards or anybody else, depending on what that other team is. So I would say right now that is a home run if they can do it, but I'm not going to get my hopes up that actually happens.
No shot, man. There's no shot. It was, you and I have talked about this. The only reporting I truly trust on the Suns is Gambo, and then as well, Gerald Bourguet. I think Gerald Bourguet does a good job too. I just think Gambo's sources are Dwayne Rankin also does a really good job. Gambo, it feels like the top dog, but if not one of those three guys, I just don't believe it. And, they're...
Even if they happen to co-host this show in the past, they're not on the list. Sorry.
Okay, well, let's just throw it out there. There was the report of the Phoenix Suns, just nonsense. It was the Phoenix Suns are trying to get Nick Richards, which we've known for a really long time. They like Nick Richards. It has never been the Suns never liked Nick Richards. It was always about how are they going to get him? And then it was and then it was like, oh, Jusuf Nurkic. And then, of course, that person twisted the report around and then said, oh, actually, it could be Josh Okogie. I do see a world where Josh Okogie and 3 second-round picks does get Nick Richards back.
It might not even have to be 3 if it's just Okogie, because he's on an expiring contract. He only costs $8 million. You can cut him in the summer.
1. It might even just be 1. But I could see that. Like, that is way more plausible to me than the Hornets taking back a negative asset. I don't think 3 second-round picks and Jusuf Nurkic is going to scratch the itch for the Charlotte Hornets. I feel like they could get a worse draft capital, but a Josh Okogie on any other team elsewhere. So I thought, the Gambo reporting was kind of what I thought, that this could take a second. I think it will be Okogie. I do think their Suns are going to.
What about this though? Hold on.
Yeah.
What about this? Because just to keep on that for a second. So the Hornets are, they're over the cap, but they're under the tax. They're not an expensive team. They have, guys coming off the books and whatever else. How about if the Suns took Grant Williams? That's kind of become the other option here that people are thinking is, does that make it more worth the Hornets' while if you're taking a guy who we don't know what he's going to get back on an NBA court because of the disastrous knee injury that he had, and he's under contract for next season as well, just like Nurkic is. Maybe if you're doing that, you can only send them 3 picks and it gets the job done.
It just feels like a lot, as well as having to bring a player back that may never play the sport of basketball again. Now he probably will, but at the level that he was at with the Boston Celtics, which was a pretty good 3-and-D guy. I mean, kind of use those words loosely, but yes, like, am I going to do it? Yes, because you're all in on this season and it's second-round picks. I don't care. I just hope that all other options got exhausted before you got to that point, because you have to be all in on this
to your point, way easier to do. Like, that could get done tomorrow.
Do Okogie. Obviously, 48 hours. He's not ready to be traded until January 15th.
Yeah.
Or I guess when this is up. So I guess you would be right. But
I didn't even mean it literally, but you're right.
Yeah,
technically
okay.
the 15th. Yes.
So Okogie, and that's ultimately what I think will happen. I've already said this, but I really want to temper the expectations because Suns fans are almost seeing Nick Richards a little bit as like a savior. I think he elevates the floor for this team, and I think he does firmly make them a playoff team. And when I say that, I mean 1 through 10, because you're just going to get competent center play. This guy's not changing championship potential. That's not who he is. It's just a little discouraging that, we're at the point of it's Nick Richards, a backup big who plays behind Mark Williams, who's pretty good, on an 8-28 team is that we're rooting for as our savior. I think it'll get done. What about you? And actually, yeah, what do you think? When do you think it will get done? And what deal do you think it'll be?
I think that they will continue to explore other options as well here, but I think the time is ticking. I think one other point to mention here is that John Gambadoro also reported on Monday on the radio, and it got out on Twitter, that the Suns are also looking at Duop Reath from Portland. Yeah. And I know that is a name that, people are going to say, why would that guy ever do anything to help, a playoff push here? I don't even know who that is. I think Suns fans actually probably do know who he is because he's killed the Suns for whatever reason over the past few years. But yes, he's getting DNPs because the Trailblazers have a million centers. But he is a guy who bombs threes, blocks shots, has some athleticism to him, and is 28, even though he's only in his second season. So I think he would be, frankly, better than Nurk or Plumlee, if I'm being honest with you.
What's he going to
cost,
what
the
though?
Suns want him to do? Nothing, because he's on a minimum deal.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not giving up. I wouldn't even give up a second-round pick for him. I would just give them Josh Okogie.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because I could see them liking the idea of Okogie.
Yeah, you just get off on the deal.
He's a defensive player. I mean, the thing, I would think you probably have to send them at least 1 second just because want the guy, so you got to give something. You don't just get him.
At him. That's fine.
But yeah, he is on a minimum deal, and he's non-guaranteed for next season. So, it's not even a guarantee that the Suns keep him or anything. So, but yeah, just to throw that out there, that signals to me that they're still looking elsewhere. I don't think that a deal for Richard specifically gets done right away.
Oh, really?
I also think the Suns would want to hold out to try to get that Nurk side of it done, if at all possible. So I give this maybe another week or two, and I could see it maybe them pulling the trigger. Once the schedule starts to get a little tougher again, and we get closer to the deadline, and they've exhausted all other options. That's my prediction. Let's get to how this whole thing, all these rumors that are now coming out, affect the big rumors regarding Jimmy Butler. Is that still happening? Does this cancel out the Suns' pursuit of Jimmy? Next. First, today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. I'm saying that as my desk is covered in junk, and I could use that myself. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I had a nice little chair from Wayfair for many years at our last apartment. We had this crappy old pull-out chair that I had when I was in a literal dorm that looked like crap, and my wife was tired of it. And we had a pretty tiny living room in our last place. We were like, what do we put in the corner that's not that awful chair? We looked at Wayfair, got a very good value, nice little, not a recliner, but something cushy and soft and the right color, very good quality. And we had that thing for 5 years. It didn't even honestly get worse at all. It just didn't match what we got in the next place. But that is my biggest endorsement of Wayfair. They have what you need. Give your home a little refresh it needs with Wayfair by going to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Today's show also brought to you by the Locked On Daily newsletter. Go to lockedondaily.com. Sign up. Put your email address in. You get NBA analysis. You stay up to date with the show. And you support us. And it's free for you. That's how easy it is. Okay, Ben. There's 2 ads in the next segment. There was only 1 in that segment,
That was kind of funny.
Let people behind the scenes there. I didn't just go mute for a second. But the Jimmy Butler pursuit, you and I were kind of texting about this. I think we've both been, on Twitter talking about it.
Yeah, I got in some hot water over the weekend.
Trying to pick people's brains and just, I think, test our own hypotheses a little bit on, like, can the Suns really pull all of this off, right? Like, that's kind of the core question. We were talking about it in hypotheticals, I feel like, when the Jimmy stuff first came out, but now we're getting more concrete, like, specifics of, okay, if they're sending seconds out in that deal and they need this pick to get Jimmy and then they need a third team for Beal, and it just starts to feel like, can this really all happen? Where do you stand as you've kind of thought through and read through all the swirling reporting around the Suns' pursuit for a center and the ongoing stuff with Jimmy on how this can all happen, if this can all happen? What do you think?
So I kind of teased that I got in a little bit of hot water with I just over ambitious Phoenix Suns fans, where I thought it was a very mild tweet where Gambo put out that the Suns are looking at Nick Richards and that there could be a deal and he's not sure Jusuf Nurkic could be the guy. And I basically quote tweeted and I said, okay, so this now, I probably shouldn't have spoken such definitive terms, but I had said, oh, I would assume that this means the Suns are pivoting away from Jimmy Butler. As all things stand, now I would love for you to get into your theory of how the Suns could add more picks, because you had talked about that a while ago, but as they currently stand, I got a lot of Suns fans, a lot of them in my mentions that were saying totally unrelated. The Suns are only offering 1 first-round pick in Beal. They're not giving up any more. And if you thought second-round picks weren't getting it done, you don't understand. I'm like, as the Suns currently sit, we don't think they have enough to get Jimmy Butler right now. At least that's what all the reporting says. So if you're going to allocate, I don't know, just 2, like let's just call it 2 second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets for Nick Richards, and you still have a second-round pick and a first-round pick, that ain't getting the deal done for Jimmy Butler. So as it currently sits now, no, I think it is one or the other. And I don't think the Suns have given up on Jimmy. I shouldn't have spoken such definitive terms, but I do think they're pivoting to what their second and third options are. Now, there was an idea of potentially getting both, and I'll let you take the floor on that one, because this is something you hit on 2 months ago.
Well, I actually want to save that for the last segment, because I kind of want to look forward. Like, what does the team look like in the meantime? Mm-hmm. What can they maybe be working on to pull this off? But good tease. We'll get there. I guess with Jimmy, my question for you, and we don't know this, right? Like, it's all kind of guessing, but do you think that they are moving on to other things? Because whether they can get both or not, they obviously aren't solely focused on Jimmy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hearing anything else, and we are hearing this. So clearly they're doing other work at the same time, which is smart. Do you think that that's true because they don't want to wait for Butler? Like, it's more of a timing thing? Or do you think that it is that they don't think that they can afford to get him in the first place and there's just not a deal out there? Or do you think that they just convince themselves that they don't want the guy from a talent and fit standpoint or a contract standpoint anymore? Because those are kind of the 3 options, right? Like, they don't want to wait for it, they can't get him, or they don't want him. You think that they're pivoting, so why do you think they're pivoting?
I don't think they're pivoting because they don't want Jimmy. And there's this idea that the Heat just have to trade Jimmy Butler because we're the only offer on the table, or Jimmy is pushing to be in Phoenix. It's like the Nurkic thing that we talked about in the last segment, man. Beal's contract is of negative value. So not only are you going to have to take Butler, you have to also pay the tax for getting off of Beal. So the Miami Heat could very much, and I'm just reiterating this, could very much just say, no, we'll just take nothing and have the salary cap relief and, just take the crow that comes with losing Jimmy Butler for nothing, which I don't think is necessarily the smart thing to do, but they could do that as well. So I think the Suns are trying to find a third team, are trying to find a fourth team, but as you and I have reiterated multiple times on the show, why is another team just going to help out the Suns just to, let's just do you a solid. We'll just take on Beal's contract. Like, no. And so it seems like they've probably called every single team. And everyone's like, call us back at the deadline. Maybe. But right now, the Suns have issues now. So they have to pivot. They have to try to figure out what they're going to do, down the line. But
so timing probably
I think it's
of those three.
Timing, but also I just think I don't think he's going to get moved. I'm like 60-40 now. He doesn't get moved. That's just kind of where I'm at. I don't think there's anything out there for him.
It'll be very obviously, this goes without saying. The next kind of domino to fall in that whole saga is he's supposed to be rejoining the team soon. The suspension that they gave him is ending in the next few days, and you've already started to hear a little bit of whispering in Heat reporting circles and national folks saying, "Hey, this Butler, it's not toast, right? It's not beyond repair over there. And so if they can at least just make it work for the rest of the season, then, maybe he doesn't go anywhere after all. That would be a pretty hilarious situation. We'll get to
send him home at some point.
Maybe.
I think they're just going to send him home.
I think the union would have something to say about that, unless he agrees to it in writing or something. Yeah. But I think, let's get to the third and fourth teams, and I think the Suns kind of situation. But I've just been wanting to throw this question at you, and I think it's interesting, even though it's not super pertinent and we can't know the answer. But with all this going on and, Brad's drawing such a hard line about the no trade clause and I hold the cards and this and that, do you think he regrets signing that deal with Washington?
Brad Beal?
Yeah.
No.
Just because of the money? It makes all of it worth it?
You could send me to my favorite place, Alcatraz, for $55 million a year, Brendon. No. Not at all. Hell no.
I think it'd be a lot, even though he has a no trade clause. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I think that he would actually have had an easier time playing in a situation that he wanted to if he hadn't been so expensive and hadn't had the no trade clause. And so part of me just wonders, right? Because I think we can read we can say that in the summer of 2023 when they got him, I think the Suns were his third option. I think he preferred Miami, and I think he preferred Milwaukee. He basically said it on that one podcast that he did. And so maybe he would just be there if he was only making $30 million or 35 instead of 50 and no trade clause, but or no trade clause, I should say. So yeah, I don't know. Just a fun thing, but I don't know the answer. But you're right. I mean, $50 million a year makes it a lot easier to deal with all the nonsense.
Oh yeah, man.
Just a lot of the nonsense, though.
Also, Arizona state taxes are not as bad as it would be in Milwaukee. At least I don't actually know if that's true.
Yeah, I don't know what Washington's tax situation is like, considering they're also not even a state. So, but let's get to the future. What do the next few weeks look like as we head toward the February 6th trade deadline, and the Suns need to keep stacking wins next. First, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. No. What are we looking at? Yes, the best place to buy any ticket, Game Time. I did not make it. Of course, I'm talking to you as the Cardinals, the Vikings are playing the Rams at the Cardinals Stadium. I'm not there. I wish I could have been, because didn't check out Game Time in time. I think all those tickets went to probably Vikings and Rams fans. But that's the kind of thing you can do, because you open up the game, you look at the top of the list, and Game Time picks help you find the best value deals right from the jump. It filters out the fluff, shows you only incredible deals on great seats, from sports to music to theater to comedy and beyond. It's that time of year where it's actually enjoyable to go outside, hang out with your friends and family, and do stuff here in the Valley. So do it all with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you do for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's show is also brought to you by Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had one ongoing problem. I just don't have all the time between work, life, trying to eat healthier, trying to maybe get in the gym, trying to see this person and that person. You just feel a little stressed out and burnt out. But if you go to the grocery store, well, then you still don't have any time to cook because you're at the store. So everything changed with Hungry Root. It's been a game changer for the tons and tons of people who have tried it. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. It's like having a personal shopper and nutritionist all in one. And the best part is every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. Quick, healthy meals that actually taste great, all delivered straight to your door. You're going to love Hungry Root just as much as the rest of us. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life by going to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA using the code LockedOnNBA at checkout. That's HUNGRYROOT.com/LockedOnNBA. Promo code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice in each box for life. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. All right, Ben, let's close it out. Okay, so you teased this a minute ago. We'll get right to it. I think that the one thing that maybe we start to hear some noise about that will solve this problem of the Suns having too many wants and not enough assets to get it done is to generate more assets. So we've been talking a lot about who do they send for Butler? Who do they send for for Richards, right? Who do they send with, something else to get off of Nurkic, whatever. I think that we should be thinking of it kind of all as one big thing. And that could include somebody like Grayson Allen, somebody like Tyus Jones, somebody even like Monte Morris, getting traded, getting some stuff for that, mostly picks, and that starts to make the other orders of business a little bit easier. I don't know exactly what they could get for those guys, but that's where my head's at. What do you think?
What do you think? I mean, I think it's a great idea, but what do you think you could get for them? Is either one of them, I'm asking this just to ask the question, would either one of them get you a first-round pick?
Well, not Tyus or Monte, of course.
So you're just getting 2 seconds for Tyus and 2 for Monte? I don't know if Tyus gets you 3.
No, because he's expiring and he's also, his stock is dwindling with his play lately. So I agree. I don't think it's a lot, but if we were kind of debating, well, with the Kogi, it's 2 seconds. With Nurk, it's definitely all 3, and even then it doesn't work. Like, it just gets you a little bit closer. Grayson maybe could get you a bad first, like a lower first, a protected first, something like that. I don't love the idea of just kind of giving him away for nothing, though.
Agreed.
That just feels like you're creating another hole in your rotation just as much as you might be plugging another one. What the other thing, and this is very nerdy, but like if you look at what the Suns did the summer of 2023 where they split their protections with the Magic, if people remember that really small deal that they did. If you look at what the Nuggets did on draft night, I believe in 2023 or 2024, where they traded some stuff with the Pacers, there's more and more NBA draft trades that are looking like NFL draft trades, where it's one pick for a couple future picks. It's 1 first for 3 seconds, stuff like that we see a lot in the NFL. And we also saw it with Dallas last year at the deadline. Part of how they did the PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford thing is that they reacquired a pick that they owed somebody. They split the difference with the protections, and it's a whole maze of stuff, but they ended up basically turning nothing into something a little bit, and that allowed them to go ahead and get Daniel Gafford or both of those guys when we didn't know if they had the assets to do it. The Rockets getting the first-round picks from Brooklyn that belonged to the Suns, how that whole thing turned into, the Rockets are going to get KD and blah, blah, blah. Very similar. So I kind of wonder too, Ben, if the Suns might be able to turn that 2031 pick into a couple of firsts from somebody else, into some kind of something that, again, just gives them more to work with.
If you can turn it into a couple of firsts, which is probably 2, 3 is...
No.
That's too much. 2. But if you could get 2 first-round picks for 1, you have to do it. And that is God, that is not something I had. I'm having a heart attack over here. It's not something I thought about even once.
Yeah.
I didn't even think that, not that you couldn't do it, but it would make sense if you could make that happen. Because then if you turn 1 first-round pick to 2 first-round picks, that might be enough to swing a deal for Jimmy Butler. Like, there's a lot of mental gymnastics that you could do. Get rid of Tyus Jones, which also you have to make sure that's okay with Tyus. You cannot just trade Tyus Jones. Otherwise, you will never get another valuable vet minimum guy to come in on your team to take less to potentially win a championship, especially when you promise the guy to start. So I think
but
that's
maybe you could send him somewhere that he could get paid, whereas the Suns can't pay him.
I think it's also, as long as he okays the deal, it doesn't matter. So that I don't really mind that much about at all. There is some gymnastics that you could do, and I would do them. If you could secure Jimmy Butler and Nick Richards, and it only cost you two of the three in Nurkic, Okogie, and
Grayson.
No. Nurkic, no, it would be, sorry. It would only cost you two of those three. Yeah. You're right. Grayson.
Yeah, player-wise, I mean, the value, those guys hardly matter, right?
Those, if it only costs you that, Beal, sorry. If it costs you Beal, it would cost you Beal and then one of the two other guys. If you could do that, you have to. If you're telling me I'm looking at a lineup now of Nick Richards, Butler, Royce O'Neal, potentially Grayson in that mix, then you could start talking about, after we've seen them play for a couple of weeks, this team can match up with other teams. But those are the type of gymnastics you need to do if you're James Jones. So, yeah, you have to do that. You have to. I'm against just getting, well, not really against it, but just going after Butler for the sake of going after Butler. But if you can get multiple guys with this core, I still think you have something there.
So Houston is actually a perfect example, not to send them Devin Booker, despite what Woj wants you to think, but to potentially, like right now, they technically, it's kind of misleading that they have like all the Suns picks now. They have their 2025 pick, which is not going to be good. You know, even if the Suns struggle the rest of the way, they're going to be 500 or so, which is like a pick in the 20s. They have their 2027 unprotected pick, pretty valuable. And then they have the 2029 pick, which is split 3 ways protection-wise right now between the Rockets, the Mavs, and the Nets. So that one is... But like, if you could trade them the 2031 pick unprotected and get 1/3 of the 2029 pick and the 2027 pick, for instance, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now you have technically 2 things to use instead of just one. But we'll see what happens there. Last thing, Ben, the Suns are heading out on a 5-game road trip. They play the Hawks, like you said. Then they play the Wizards, the Pistons, the Cavs, and the Nets. It sounds like Jusuf Nurkic is not going to join them on the beginning of this road trip, but he is doing a lot of maneuvering and a lot of what you might call sulking in order to maybe do his version of what Jimmy Butler is doing and try to make this ugly. How much do you think that will affect this team as this situation plays out?
No one cares. Him unfollowing Booker and Kevin Durant tells me that Booker and Kevin Durant aren't big fans of him. Listen, man, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I'm still of this belief that Nurkic isn't the reason why the Suns have completely spiraled. He's a reason. He's not the reason. I think mostly it's because your big 3 haven't been the big 3. But Nurkic might just be over the hill. He doesn't move very well. He can't finish around the paint. He used to be actually a decent scorer for the Trailblazers and early on in his career with the Nuggets. But like, come on, man. For the longest time, I really liked the way he stuck up for this team. There was a little bit of a leadership factor there. Last year, the de facto point guard, all kind of flushed down the drain, dude. Listen, you are getting cooked by the Hornets' second-string center last week. Like, this is on you. The idea like Budenholzer didn't have a talk with him about benching him. It's like, dude, who do you think you are? You're not a star player in this league. I'll bench your ass if you're not very good. So no, I don't think anyone.
It's funny when it's like you're gonna go from 10 minutes to 0. Like, Bud has some bigger things going on than that. That wasn't worthy of a meeting in the middle of, a busy portion of the schedule where you have 5 games in 7 nights. Why is he going to sit down with you and have a conversation? What is that conversation even supposed to be? Hey, you've been playing bad. Like, when it's Bradley Beal who's still scoring 20 a lot of nights, and he's going from starting to being on the bench after being an All-NBA guy, an All-Star, a leading the league in scoring type player, that is worthy of having a conversation about. 100%. Nurkic seeing his minutes go from 30 to 0 over the course of 3 months is not exactly breaking news. So if he can't handle that, then
like with Beal, it's not about him sucking. It's about fit and how we stagger these guys. Nurkic, it's literally just about you sucking. And sorry, man, you're still going to collect $20 million a year. You're just probably going to have to do it somewhere else or from the bench. And I don't feel bad for you. And he's lost.
If he goes to Charlotte or somewhere else, he'll probably be back in a rotation and he'll get to play again.
Yeah, but we're sending him to Alcatraz. Him and no one else right now. Bradley Beal got out of Alcatraz.
Sounds like he's dealing with the flu, so bad week for Nurk.
The flu.
The whole league has a flu. I believe it. Tyus had it last week.
It probably is
true. Who else had it? Oso, I think, in that same game.
Oso had it, and Tyus had it.
We'll see.
You're 100% right. He definitely had the flu, but it's still fun to think that that's not the case. Also, Nurkic having the flu doesn't mean he's getting traded, guys. It doesn't. He just got a tummy bug, okay? He just got a tummy bug. No one's getting traded. Like, trust me, they would just sit his ass on the bench if he was getting traded. There's no difference. You just don't want him infecting Kevin Durant. Sorry. I feel like I have to always reiterate that. That doesn't mean anything.
I will say a few of the fans who have, pushed that conspiracy every time a guy gets hurt. When Grayson went to the locker room at halftime with the left knee soreness on Sunday night, there was a tiny part of me that was like, what's up here? But he's probable for Tuesday. So we will be back after Tuesday night's game against the Hawks with a recap episode. So hit follow or subscribe if you haven't already. Become an everydayer. We're here for you Monday through Friday. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you after.